Now, we'd be here all talking all night if we were to go through every classic record that you've produced, but we're going to just highlight some of the songs that some of the supporters definitely want to hear about. You mentioned earlier Selling Cells is going down. Talk a little bit about that creative process, the Keith Sweat sample. Just take us back to, your mentality and what you were doing going into that particular production.
Okay, well, definitely I was in Emeryville. I had a warehouse studio in Emeryville and had all my equipment, all my records, everything was in there. The mic was, we had a little makeshift mic booth. Everything was in there. And E told me that he wanted me to work with Sally Sale. So I ended up talking to Sally Sale, and he wanted to redo um, Keith Sweat. And I think what's the song called? It's called "How Deep Is Your Love." So uh, me and Scott were in the studio, and Scott did a lot of keyboards on that song, and then I did like the drums and some keyboards, and then I had Sally Seal come over and do his vocals. So I think the first mix of that song, I actually mixed it in my studio, and then they just mastered it. And then the second, when they did the remix, we went and did that over at Mike Denton's and kind of tried to follow the 5 on it formula. So we did it at Mike Denton's, and Alex Mejia was there with me in the studio while we were mixing it, and he helped get everybody together and get them to the studio, and he kind of orchestrated a little bit of that. So uh, yeah, we did this the Forte, E40, Mac 10, Be Legit, you know, all of them were on it. And then Carrie, she did the vocals. Carrie Drew, she's on Instagram. For those of you who want to get her to sing some choruses, she got a real unique voice. Um, so yeah, she did the chorus, and it just came out, man. Like it came out good, man. Her voice was the final icing on that cake. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just I don't know what it was about her voice, but she was the perfect voice for that song.
What do you remember most when that hit the streets in your area?
Man, I just remember a lot of lowriders and you know a lot of old schoolers with the old school mobs. They were bumping that. You know what I mean? And I know it got down to L.A. where Essays was knocking it. So at that point, I knew I'm like, okay, think we might have another one.
Right. At what point is Dollars and Spence Records formed?
Well, Dollars and Spence was a concept. Spence saw that I was actually making some money in music, and he was like, "Man, you know, I like music too, man. I want to get involved in this. I want to get me a group." So that's when he started finding the members of Three Times Crazy, and uh, basically I did all the music, and I helped secure the deals, and he helped put the group together, and kind of went around with them, and kind of introduced them to different people, and uh, made sure that maybe they could get songs with like Seagram, and then I brought in Father Dom, and we just did what we could to make it the best little collaboration we could.
You mentioned Seagram. Talk a little bit about your relationship with Seagram and working on his album Souls on Ice.
Yeah, so basically after Seagram came in and worked with 3 times, he was like, "Man, can you do a couple of tracks for me?" And he was signed to Rap a Lot, so I did a couple of tracks and ended up going down to L.A. to mix them. That's when I hooked up with Mike Dean. Mike Dean heard the way I tracked my music and the way I put stuff together on, on the what was it on ADATs back then. The way I put it together on the ADATs, and he was like, "Man, dude, you want to help me work on some stuff for Scarface?" So that's where that came in at.
Now that
So,
Untouchable is a classic album.
so we started working on that album.
Right. Some of your best memories of Seagram before he passed.
Oh man, just chilling with him in the studio, blowing big, and you know, he was always a cool. He was a cool dude. I didn't have no problem with Sig. Sig was a good dude, man.
Right. Before we talk about Scarface's Untouchable album, you headed east to work with Shaim. Talk a little bit about
Well,
that.
you know what? No, Shaheem came to L.A.
Okay.
and I worked with. Actually, he came to the Bay.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in the Bay chilling with me in that same studio in Emeryville. Him and another artist named Snaggerpuss,
Mm-hmm.
and they both came out. And me and Shaheem did a song called "Life as a Shorty," and we sampled their Wu Tang in there. Um, but yeah, he was cool. I think he was a little bit nervous being in the Bay because he had never been here. But
Right.
but we had him. We had his back. He was good.
How did you get on his radar?
Eric Brooks from New Tribe. So I think Shaheem was actually signed to Virgin though.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric being signed to Virgin, he got the word that Shaheem was looking for music. So that's where that link hooked. Where we got hooked up.
Now, was the track already made, or did you make it around?
Nah. I kind of thought about, you know, I knew it had to be some more of a little East Coast flair to it. So yeah, and then I thought about that sample, "Life as a Shorty." I mean, since he was so young, that's kind of where I came up with the idea for that.
Right. Now, you said Seagram directed you to Rapper Lot Records, where you got to work with the Ghetto Boy Scarface. Talk a little bit about working with Scarface on The Untouchable.
Man, so I think we went down to Houston first. They flew me out to Houston, and we did a few tracks out there, and then we headed to L.A. to lay everything down on 48 Digital. So one of the tracks that we got um, was a Tupac verse with the smiles for Smile. And Face, we needed to make a beat so Face could do his part. So we started, I think that was one of the first songs we started. And then we just kept going while we were out there. We just kept doing tracks. But when we did Smile, the first idea we had was we were going to put Stevie Wonder on the track. We wanted to do that because we knew he was right next door. He had a studio next door to this place where we were working at. So his assistant used to always come over there and talk to us. So one day we were like, "Hey, what's the possibility we could get Stevie to come over and listen to this song, and maybe we could get him on the hook?" So he came over and he heard the song, and I was like, this song must be powerful because, he looked like he was tearing up.
Mm.
And it was right after Pocket passed, so the wound was still open. You know what I mean? So he heard it. Hearing Pac's vocals and knowing the man just passed away. That's a lot. So we had the beat, we had Pac's vocals, and then Faye started putting his vocals down. So we're waiting on the okay from Stevie if he's going to do it or not. So we found out that, I don't know if it was a financial thing or what, but we found out that he wasn't going to do it. So we ended up getting, who was that? Johnny, oh, wait, let me see. What's his name? Do you want to ride?
Yeah.
Not Teddy, but
Yeah.
Johnny P.
Johnny P.
Johnny P from Do or Die, when we used to sing all the choruses for them. And he was signed to rap a lot. So we ended up flying him out to LA, and he basically did the chorus. And at that time, I had come up with the chorus, and I interpolated the melody of "Tell Me If You Still Care," and I used "Smile for Me." So that was a chorus that I came up with, and we just had Johnny P sing it.
Mm.
So that's how Smile ended up the way it is. And
Very.
then after that, we just kept flowing. We just stayed in LA for a while, and I think we might have went back to Houston another time or two, and worked on some more stuff, and then just ended up back in LA because we tried to track all the music and then mix it. But yeah, we did a bunch of songs. We did like, I know that I did like 7 songs with them.
Mm. Now you ended up.
South Southside, Mary Jane, Smarts, Faith, Untouchable, and Money Makes the World Go Round.
You got a good memory.
Yep.
No doubt. Now you ended up working with the Ghetto Boys on a couple projects, Good, Bad, Ugly, and the Foundation. What was it like getting those legends in the studio and that creative process?
Man, you know what? Bushwick was such a character, man. He was a good dude, man. He was always joking, always, just good-hearted dude. You know what I mean? Rest in peace, Bushwick Bill. It was a sad day when he passed away, man, because he was a important part of the Ghetto Boys. Just his whole vibe in there was made it that much, more of a thing. But yeah, Willie D's a cool dude. Face, they were all cool. But I noticed that they didn't really hang out together that much.
Mm,
But when it came to the music, that's when they locked in.
right. Very dope. You were able to link up with yet another East Coast group, Black Moon. Talk a little bit about linking with them and what you guys came up with.
Well, you know what? This dude that I used to um, deal with out in New York named Agent. He was Intelligent Hoodlums or Tragedy. He was his manager, and he had got a CD that I made to one of the engineers for Black Moon, and I guess he played it for Buckshot Shorty, and he liked it. So we ended up using that, and he recorded the song. Now I can't tell you what the name of that song is, but it's definitely on my Spotify playlist.
Mhm. So now
Oh,
you.
it's called It's called Fever.
Oh yeah, off the Total Eclipse album.
Yep, Fever.
Though now, you've released a lot of compilations on Dollars and Spence. What were some of your favorite compilations to work on with all the fellas?
Well, it was just two. It was the Family Tree, and then it was FT 2000. And FT 2000 was more of my baby, and Family Tree was both of us. So yeah, FT 2000, that was stuff that I put together, and I kind of like brought in who I wanted on that one. It was just like basically, it was a lot of artists from the first album, um, and then some other ones also added, Magic Mike and Chico Capone, and they're from Central Richmond. So I brought them in because that's where my some of my relatives lived on the same block with them down on Fifth Street.
Mm,
So that's how that came about. And FT 2000 Triple J, I'm just waiting for him to blow up.
mm,
Like he's a star. Um, his lyrical wordplay, ridiculous. He ended up getting a deal with Def Jam, but I think the album just never came out.
mm,
Because I remember Tina Davis, she paid me for sure for some tracks. Tina Davis was at Def Jam, and she was this. I don't know if it was. I think it might have been considered Def Jam South while Face was there, and yeah, she definitely paid me to do some tracks, but I just don't know that the album. You know what I mean? I think Face ended up leaving Def Jam South, and Ludacris and Shaka. I think Shaka Zulu, they took over. So, once you lose your guy at the label, it's kind of like, no telling what's going to happen.
right. Now, throughout the years, is there some production that we may not know, or some albums that you had a hand in that you can tell the supporters?
Uh, there's a few albums like The Product. Like I'm not sure how many people know about that album, but that's a really good album. And that was Scarface with Malice, who came from Boys in the Hood, and then Willie Hen, who came from the Dun Deal family from San Francisco, from the Fillmore projects. And that was a collaboration album there together. And the album was great. It was a great album. I even heard Nas talking about how he was listening to it. He was jamming it. He said it on they asked him what he was listening to, and he said The Product.
Mm,
But that album definitely, uh, of course, 3 Times Crazy. Um, I don't know how much that got out of this region. I know it got to Houston, but
mm,
I'm not sure if New York ever caught on to it. But that was a really good album. Um, then I worked with some young guys from Hunters Point, uh, the Bread Me Out family. I thought they had a really nice album um, that came out, and they just kind of, one of the guys went to jail, so they just kind of after that it was just like they kind of went their own separate ways. But they're
right.
all doing good now. I may release some of that soon, some songs we didn't put out. Um, I got some Alan Anthony stuff that I may release. That's another album. He was on Def Jam, but he was there when Def Jam and Rockefeller, that whole thing kind of like fizzled. Jay Z went to Def Jam, and Dame Dash stayed at Rockefeller, and Rockefeller ended up not getting the support, and they had a few artists that never came out.
Right. Now, you've been in the game well over 30 years. What do you consider your greatest accomplishment musically?
Um, I mean, I think it's just the overall body of work. I mean, sure, there's a few, Smile, Mary Jane, 5 1, those all were you know, those all hit the charts and went kind of high, but, um, like Mac Dre, the stuff I did with him, if he would have been around, that might have hit the charts because he would have been out there promoting it. But he died right after he put the Genie of the Lamp album out.
Mm,
And I had It's Not My Job, Genie of the Lamp, and Two Hits of Pass. And Genie of the Lamp seems to be like a lot of people's favorite. So I think if he had lived, like that album would have probably did better numbers, and he would have kept going on, and I know I would have still been working with him.
right. Very dope. Catch us up what Tone has been up to over the recent years.
Well, you know what? I I went and worked for a while, but I was still doing music. And while I was doing it, I was working with an artist named Kanwar, a Punjabi artist.
Mm,
And because I like a challenge, you know what I mean? I don't like to just stick to the same thing over and over and over again. Sometimes it's fun to kind of like, you know, change directions a little bit and go off on something else. You know what I mean? Test your test your skills out and see, if it works across the board.
right.
And so I had been working with him for a while, and he's being well received right now. We just put something out called Trip to Punjab that's doing really well. Um, I also was working at the time. I took a job at a hospital, and I did that because I wanted a 401k. So when I retired, I would have something to fall back on, some some money and some health benefits.
Right.
Because right now in the music business, that ain't really what's happening. There's not really anything set up for us in the music business. I
Hmm.
know there's labels that are offering little things, but it's not just standard yet.
Right.
So, I moved out to Vegas. I retired from the medical field, and now I've just been kind of like laying back a little bit. And, the trap music is kind of, I like some of it, but I don't like a lot of the lyrical content.
Right.
I don't like where that's going really. Like, I miss a good punchline. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yep.
Trap's a little different. They do a lot of repeat the same phrases, you know, 8 bar verses, and it's just a little different. And I kind of miss the 80s and 90s vibe where
Originality.
you had to kind of think to write lyrics,
Hmm.
and now with this AI stuff, like a lot of producers they not producing anymore. They just dragging and dropping.
Hmm.
Like we actually looked for stuff and had to get creative, and like that was fun. Like I don't know how much fun I could have just dragging and dropping. That to me is just like, at the time when I figured out that, man, tone has got to be more than just sampling, and I started replaying music and learning how I would look on the back of album covers and see the musicianship and see who was playing what and what instrument they were playing, the arps, the moogs, the clavinets, and the bass and the leads, and Fender Rhodes, and just the pianos, seeing all the instrumentation and the different instruments that they were using. So that made me, being my dad was a scientist, so I kind of got a little bit of that. I want to explore and dig deeper into things kind of vibe. So that's why I started, really looking at these back of these album covers and checking out like how they were putting it together. And I'm like, all these sounds can be made again. Like these instruments are all around. You can find these, clavinets with wah-wah pedals and different things like that. And, filters on Fender Rhodes and just different things to kind of put different characters on the instruments. And I studied that. So I used to play a game with my kids and make them, when we would listen to music, I would tell them to tell me every instrument they heard.
Mm.
But I was also doing it for myself too, because I was trying to figure out, oh, that's what that is. Because, sometimes it's hard to, like, you can't, sometimes a clavinet can sound like a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you got somebody like Bernie Worrell, he used to play the clavinet on all the Parliament stuff. And I used to think it was guitar. But he had a wah-wah pedal on it, so he was adding that character, and the clavinet sounds like a guitar, but it's just got keys.
Mm. Now, is Tone looking for artists in 2025 to work with?
I'm always looking. My ears are always open for something that strikes me, and um, I got a few things I'm working on now. There's a few people that want me to do some new tracks. I just bought a new setup of some equipment, and I'm putting that all together now.
Very dope. Well, Tone, I want to thank you for everything you've done for the culture, everything that you continue to do. Big shout out to BDP Jeff. Before we get out of here, can you share any thoughts and with your supporters who've been down with you since day one?
Hey, I'd say this: if you love music, support music, and if you want to do music, go all the way. Don't go half-heartedly, because you start working with somebody and they're giving it their all, and you should give them your all, so that everybody that's involved is serious about it. Um, and if you don't want to do music and you just like listening to music, then you know stream it, man. I mean, help the artist make a living, so we can keep creating great stuff, because we're very lucky to have fans and be able to live off of the earnings that you get from music. And some people, hey, you don't want to do music, there's a lot of other things you can do that are great accomplishments. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a doctor. There's nothing wrong with being a lawyer. There's nothing wrong with being a construction worker or a engineer or whatever it is you do. If you work on the bridge, and you got a good job, just make sure you get yourself a 401k and make sure you get good health benefits, so that later on in life you'll have something.
Right. Very dope. And for those new artists and supporters alike that want to reach out to you or just follow you, where can we find you at on social media?
Instagram, tone underscore five on it, the number five underscore Capone.
Very dope. Like I said, that is the one and only Tone Capone. I'm the journalist Sin-seer. Thank you so much, Tone, for sharing your story with us.